Hello, everybody. This is Gary Matheny. It is October 2024. And this is part two of the Storyworth questions that have been sent to me by my daughter. Apparently, I'm to answer these questions. They are to be put on a computer and then done some editing. And then at the end of the day, Storyworth is supposed to put these questions and answers in such a fashion that I won't say publishable form, but a better form than what I could ever do. So I'm dedicating this to my daughter Lydia and my granddaughter Daphne because I exercised a little bit of hesitation to do this at all. But Lydia told me, give your granddaughter something to remember you by. And so today's question is, what was your wedding like? Well, I think I need to give some background on that issue because I was 36 years old when I got married. So I was no young pup. I had been around for a while. Excuse me. And frankly, it wasn't necessarily without trying. It wasn't like I didn't want to get married and then, I hit my mid-30s and the right situation arose. It was closer to I wanted to get married and I tried. But, I was unlucky in love. I did pursue in my 20s and early 30s attractive and intelligent women, which other men pursued, and that was part of the deal, is that I wasn't the only one that was pursuing these young women. In fact, I used to say I had a champagne appetite, but beer qualities when it came to women. In other words, I like the pretty ones. I like the smart ones. I like the conversational ones. I like the ones that, frankly, like me. But at the end of the day, I did not do well when it came to pursuing relationships with women. And so, for some oddball reason, over time, I embraced my failure. I had several attempts to get married before I was 36, pursue relationships with women, have those relationships not work or culminate in marriage, and fail. And so I guess you could say my heart was broken. But at the end of the day, for some oddball reason, I embraced failure. It was who I was, it was part of who I was. And failure was all part of life. Everything in life was not roses. There were difficulties in life, and there were failures in life. Don't let your failures defeat you, but the fact that you fail is really no shame. And let it be a learning experience. And with me, I let it help shape who I was, because I figure I was who I was. It was the old Popeye thing. I is who I is. And so anyhow, it wasn't until 1987 and I met my wife, Michelle. I met her at her birthday party in December 1987. I had been invited there as a mutual friend. And the good thing, and probably the best thing that happened in my relationship with her, which culminated in marriage in 1989, was that we kind of hung around the same people. And so it was a relaxed atmosphere. And so things were to evolve more slowly rather than, pursuing an infatuation. This developed more out of a friendship. But anyhow, we married in December 1989, and so those 2 years leading up to that, it wasn't until the last 6 months, the summer of 1989, that we really started getting serious with each other. But I think, as I was an adult male in my mid-30s, and I always tried to have a little bit of a creative angle. But I remember, and this was all quite coincidental, that I developed my own Christmas tradition. It's not too much of a tradition because I don't do it anymore. But back when I was single and in my 30s, I had Christmas pie. And what I would do, I would buy a couple of pies and have some type of Christmassy event at somebody's house. Didn't even have to be at my house. And we would, get into Christmas spirit and share Christmas pie. And I've talked to other people about Christmas pie. Nobody has ever celebrated it. And so if Christmas pie ever takes off, the father of Christmas pie, the originator of Christmas pie. And fortunately, my wife was from Minnesota, and I do have a weakness for pie. And she learned how to bake pie when she was like 5 or 6 years old with her grandmother. And so, being a Northwoods woman, I think baking is a huge deal in the northern Midwest. So she learned early and made very good pies. The old saying, the way to a man's heart is through his mouth. Feed him. Should say through his stomach. You feed him and make him happy in that regard, and he may think of you as a potential mate. And so probably I can attribute my marriage more than anything else to pie. Of course, I'm speaking tongue in cheek. Well, when we honeymooned at a Hilton resort down in South Florida, in the Florida Keys, and it had its own interesting stories. See, you have to think about how things were back in 1989. The computers have not taken off yet as far as the internet. And so I went to a travel agency in St. Louis. I worked in downtown St. Louis, and I went through their brochures. I knew I wanted to go to South Florida. So I found a brochure on this nice place in the Keys and went down there, and it was undergoing major renovation. I'm talking about jackhammer renovation. And so it was major renovation. And so I went to the people that own it and said, I can't stay here. It's my honeymoon. You guys are undergoing major renovation. And so I told them I want my money back. We'll find some other place. And so I actually, because I was a lawyer and I was a young, more aggressive lawyer at the time, I told them, I'm going to come back up this way on Friday. This was like a Monday, or maybe it was a Saturday or Sunday before the following Friday. I said, I'm going to come back up here on Friday, and I want to be able to pick up a check to get my money back on this place. And, if you don't, on the way out of town, I'll just stop by the courthouse and file a lawsuit. So that's Gary the lawyer operating as Gary the lawyer. And On the way out of town, when we were heading back to the airport, I stopped by and my check was there. And I picked it up and I said thank you. And then we went our merry way. We wound up spending our honeymoon at a Hilton resort in I think it was Key Largo, and then we made little day trips out of Key Largo, including went scuba diving and went down to Ernest Hemingway's southernmost home in the Keys. And so, what about the memories of the wedding itself? Well, there are several things that stick out to me about the wedding. The one thing to start it off was that we made a really good choice in the church that we got married in. It wasn't a church that we attended, but we chose a church in West St. Louis County that had the large windows in the front area behind the pulpit. So when you're sitting in the pews, you see this huge set of windows in the front of the church. And then there was woods behind it. So you had this feeling that you were out in the woods, even though you weren't. It was December and nobody really wanted to get married in December in St. Louis outside. But you had the feeling that effect. It also, because it was still Christmas season, had this huge Christmas tree that it had setting to the side of the front of the church. So it was a really great setting to get married in, and I was very happy with our choice there. Another memory that I have from my wedding day was my dad's smile. I can't say that I saw my dad smile like that towards me in the past, but that particular day, my dad had a big smile on his face, and he was happy. He was happy that I was getting married. I guess he figured that at last the guy's getting married. Another memory that I have is that one of my more evangelical friends, apparently, he brought tracts, little tracts that you put on windows or leave behind at restaurants or whatever. And so he apparently, either on the way in or on the way out, put these tracts on the windows of the vehicles as he left. I didn't know what to think about that. I was thinking, well, isn't that a distraction from my wedding? But it didn't really make any difference. And frankly, it didn't bother me at all that he put those tracts on windows, car windows. And it was part of who he was. He was a very much dedicated evangelical Christian who was essentially an evangelist. Another thing that happened that didn't really happen on the wedding day, but happened like a week or two after the wedding. I had a cake dream. And I was worried in my cake dream about what happened to the wedding cake. Now, people that know me know that I like to eat. I like pies, of course, I mentioned that. But I also like cake. And I thought there was this mysterious thing that happened to our wedding cake that it was missing. And so I remember having a dream about that and waking up and talking to my wife about what happened to our wedding cake. And it had been accounted for, it had been frozen, and that most of it was eaten, but what was left over had been accounted for. And then I could rest assured that my wedding cake had not disappeared on me. And probably, lastly, the most significant thing that happened was in the spiritual realm. There was a man there that I think he had kind of a prophetic edge to him. And he came up to me privately and and said something to the effect that it's going to be rough, it's going to be hard, but at the end of the day, it'll be all right. And that is pretty much a capsule of my marriage, and probably most marriages. There's rough times, there's difficult times, there are times of misunderstanding. And yet, if you stay with it and learn how to relate to the other person, it's okay. It works out just fine. So today, I'm 71 years old and happy to be married to Michelle since 1989. And probably have said more than what you all would like, but I wanted to give a broader spectrum than just the actual wedding itself. So thank you for listening today. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.